Hey everyone, welcome to the Huddle. Really excited today with my guest, Matthew McConaughey. Matthew, thank you for coming.
Good to be here, John.
And thank you for coming to Bentonville, this town that we are so proud of. I think you've been here a few times over the years.
I have.
It keeps changing.
You got a lot to be proud of. It's
It's
a good looking place.
We do. And this morning we had a really great morning with a lot of our long-term associates who get to come in, meet all of us, hear from people like you. And it's just a great experience for everyone that's here. And I wanted to start with talking about stories.
Yep.
And you have a career that really started in the early 90s in what you are known to do, but there's so many things that you also do. I also started in 1993 here.
Okay.
And have had a great time with the company. But I want to talk to you about how you were inspired to be such a great storyteller. And you know, we talk about movies and scripts and writing, but you have a message, and I heard a bit of it last night, and I'm excited to share it with everyone who's watching today.
Yeah, thanks, John. Stories, I come from a family of storytellers. Mm-hmm. So I've got my dad, my mom, two older brothers. And when we would sit and have dinner each night at that Lazy Susan, I would hear the stories. My dad was a great storyteller. My older brother's a great storyteller. My other brother's a great storyteller. My mom wasn't the best storyteller, but she made sure she got some pops in there. As the youngest, I would just sit and listen and hope that one day I was going to get a gap where I had a story that I thought was worth telling and get in there at the dinner table. But that was an intimidating idea because my family just rolled, and the stories better be good or you got rolled over. And I remember I was about 15, and I had something and I kind of prepared for it. Something that I said, tonight at dinner, when I get a gap, I'm going to get in and tell a story. And that gap came, and I started it. And once everyone turned their head and looked at me, I choked. I got nervous, and I stumbled, and I missed a punchline and stuff. And they all looked at me just like, and went back to telling stories. And I was, dang it, I got rolled. Well, I kept trying to get in, and I finally got into where I could get some stories in, became a good storyteller, and became someone at the table who could tell my own stories and share with them rather than just listening to theirs. You know, I love math and logic and science and numbers. Mm-hmm. Those are all great, you know, but the story is what speaks to the heart. The story, a good story well told, usually it's incredibly personal, but personal in a way that you're not the only one that owns it. Anyone who's listening can see themselves as the subject of that story. Mm-hmm. When I was writing Green Lights, I came out and it was a lot of personal stories, and I thought they were too personal. And I was like, no one's going to be able to connect with this. What ended up happening was the more personal the stories got, the more they meant to me, the more they meant to other people, because they saw themselves in my story. Different, you know, schematics. They went different places. They had different decisions, but the same decision-making kind of paradigms, or times where they were like, oh, I didn't take a risk here, and I should have, and I'll regret that, but now do I still have a chance? Ways that they could see themselves in my own story. So a good story, well told, I think is worth telling, and if it can be told in a way that's subjective but can speak to the collective.
And Matthew, you know, when people are great at things, they make it look easy. So people may look at you, they may read your book that we're going to talk about, or see you in a movie, and think it's just natural and easy. But you had to practice. So it didn't start easy. You got rolled by your family.
I got rolled by family.
And you had to keep coming back, right?
And keep coming back to get in there, to get a story in and pull one off, maybe get the table to laugh and go, yes, I got it, it worked. Learn to wait on the punchline, you know what I mean? No one likes that pregnant pause right before the punchline, but it can work really well if you time it right.
Yep.
You know, I went along into movies telling stories, 3-act structures, you know, beginning, middle, and end. Trusting a 3-act structure. Going to work on something like a True Detective, which was a 10-part series, was a very different experience for me than doing a movie. Because now, 10-part series, that's a 450-page script. So I have a longer first act where I get to stay in the first act of my character for 3 full episodes. Where in a movie, you only got 30 pages. You got to hurry up and get to the conflict. Yep. You know, so telling stories that way, learning and listening, taking the patience to set up the landscape of the story, the people, the smells, the details, having the patience to do that, preparing. That's all a lot of preparation.
A lot of preparation.
I think is what probably the base answer to your question is, if you do prepare, then it doesn't look, you don't see the work. You don't want to see me acting. If you catch me acting, I didn't do my job well. So if you go, the best compliment I can get as a performer is after the film, you go, that's you. Ha, you just played yourself. Thank you. Best thing you could tell me. Now, it took a lot of work to make it look like I just played myself. Sports analogies. Best quarterbacks study that playbook so they can then have the freedom to call the audible when it's game time. So I call it work early, play when you're actually in the game on the field. But the hard work, the sweat equity for me comes in the preparation. And then so when I can go to work, I can throw all those thousands of pages of notes that I've taken out of the way and now just play the moment.
Great performers, great athletes, you could forget what the industry, anywhere. You do most of your practice in your head. After you've performed, you think about it over and over, or before the next one, you think about how to make it the best it can be and work your way through it. So I get all that, but let's go back to your first impression that the world saw. 3 words. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you should say it. I'm not going to say it. I've heard it a lot of times.
All right. Yeah.
So that just came out, but it did define you for some period of time, and it shaped your career in a direction.
It still precedes me.
It still does. But people may have known you for that. But along the way, you made a big shift, and you had to redefine what the world thought maybe of the early Matthew McConaughey as the actor, the storyteller. Talk about that journey, if you don't mind, from the 3 words to the whole transition. And it wasn't easy. I've heard the story, but I'd love people to know that it's not as easy just waking up one day and deciding I'm going to do something different.
Right.
You really got to be committed.
So my career was going well. I was successful. I was living the life I wanted to live. I was also the king of romantic comedies, which I loved doing. I enjoyed them. They were like a Saturday. The thing was, they started to feel like every script I go, I could do that tomorrow morning. And I was like, oh, well, that's good on you, McConaughey. Glad you feel like you can do that tomorrow morning. But what I was wanting is something work-wise that could make me sweat in my boots. And those weren't making me sweat in my boots. I wasn't scared to go do them in the right way. I like to try and find projects that scare me in the right way. Because I couldn't get the dramas that I wanted, which were going to make me sweat my boots in Hollywood, because I couldn't get those, I decided to quit doing what I was doing. And Camille and I hunkered down and we said, look, I'm going to step out. I'm going to let my agent in Hollywood know I'm not going to do any more rom-coms. And we both understood that meant I might have just written myself a one-way ticket out of Hollywood. But we committed to it and stepped out, didn't get any offers, anything but rom-coms for probably 6, 8, 10 months. A year goes by, no work. 15 months go by, my agent says, I haven't even heard your name. Then I started really thinking I did write myself a one-way ticket out of Hollywood. Started thinking about other jobs maybe I needed to find in life. About 20 months in, with no work, all of a sudden, the offers came in that I was looking for. Now, why'd they come in? Well, I hadn't been in your theater or in your living room in a rom-com. I hadn't been in People magazine shirtless on the beach, which was a real-life narrative that was going along parallel to those rom-coms, which looked like the rom-com movies I was in. It was, where did McConaughey go? So the anonymity that I found about where is he? I don't even know where he is. All of a sudden, I became a novel, new, it'd be a good idea for Mud, for Killer Joe, for Dallas Buyers, for True Detectives, McConaughey. And it wouldn't have happened. I know it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have taken that time to step out of what was not feeding me to try and get what I did want, which did feed me, which were those dramas that I was looking for.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I think we all go through this in leadership, also in business. It's hard to put yourself out there. Yeah. And there's so many things around you that tell you just say the right thing, do what's expected.
Connect the dots.
Exactly. And so it sounded like it was authentic early to be in the rom-coms and to be one line of work. But then you changed, and then you decided at the risk of great personal sacrifice and a price to be able to just put yourself out there and be who you wanted to be.
Right.
And I remember when I was growing up in leadership roles, at a point it clicked for me, and I realized it's not about me, it's about serving all the other people around. So similar story, my dad was with the company from the time I was 3. and for about 25 years. And so I heard the dinner time stories, and they weren't the stories like you had. They were stories about department managers opening new stores, the way that we were servicing customers. But it took me a while to figure out, same thing, like this isn't about me. This is about the impact we have on behalf of others. So what got you comfortable just deciding I'm just going to be who I am, who I want to be, and we'll talk about how you wrote in the book. But that's a hard choice for a lot of people. So if you had to give people advice on how do you make that leap, what would you say?
So it could be scary betting on ourselves. I think a lot of us know truthfully inside us what we may need, but are scared to make that leap. And I understand that, because you can look at, there's an adage, my brother says it, well, if everyone only did what they loved, there'd be a lot of people unemployed. I get that. There's some fact to that. But there's also a lot of us at a lot of different times in our life that give up on pursuing that thing that we love to do and go, let me just connect the dots, man. Pays the rent. Let me just do this. Right. Or I don't want to believe in myself that much. Or I don't want to hang out. I pull the parachute. Hang on, that's far enough. This is good. For me, look, I'd fallen in love with Camilla. She was pregnant with her first child. The only thing I ever knew I wanted to be in life was a dad. So for me, that on the horizon anchored my heels into the ground about like, I did it. Or I'm about to do it. This is my main dream that I knew I always wanted to be. So with that happening, gave me a lot of inner confidence and security to go, I may sabotage my career over here. Well, I'll bet on it, because I got this, and this is non-negotiable. And as you know, when you have children, when it comes down to it, your job, your vocation moves to the 2 or the 3 hole.
That's right.
Of priorities. And that's not bad for business. It's actually great for business, because I know for me, as much as I revered my craft and was learning, getting my own identity as a man from my craft and vocation, I had almost too much reverence for it. And when I'm going to become a father and I've fallen in love, now these things have moved up to top of my value scale. I became a better actor. I still had much respect for it, but I didn't have the overall I became more involved and less impressed with my work.
Before you knew you were going to be a dad, and I remember what it's like when I found out I was going to be a dad. What I did, I think, defined me. And then when I found out I was going to be a parent, it in some ways redefined me first. Right. And then I realized who I am, and then what I do all day. So there was a bit of a switch.
Yeah.
And I became more committed in both, and I love what I do. I love our people. I love the opportunity just to get to do this every day. It's a gift. But it did shift my perspective a bit from what I thought what I did is who I was.
Right. And
then I realized, no, what is first is raising these kids. And Brady and I had to together decide what we were willing to do and what we weren't willing to do. It redefined the boundaries and takes your guard down a bit.
And peripheral vision gets better. You get an objective view of what you're doing, I think, better. I was able to see what I was doing and where maybe I was working too hard but not smart, where maybe I was putting in too much effort for things that really weren't paying me back quid pro quo, or places where, no, you're not doing enough of this. You need to be doing more of that. You got 24 hours in the day. This is how you need to approach your days and your choices of work better. This is how you need to approach the staff better. This is how you need to approach the studios, the roles, et cetera. It gave me an objective view that I didn't have before.
So the book, Poems and Prayers, this isn't a book you wrote just recently. You started a long time ago. Yeah. So you started, from my understanding, you should tell the story, but journaling thoughts and trying to get to these principles and defining, maybe is a better way to say it, defining your center. But you put it all out there. I mean, it's you. It's not sugar-coated. There are stories, there are poems. Talk about how you got the confidence to decide to go ahead and just tell the world through the book who Matthew McConaughey is.
So a few years ago, I found myself getting a bit cynical. I found myself looking at reality and going, there it is again, more bad news. And then the scary part happened is I remember it going through my mind of going, well, maybe that's just how it is. And that scared me, that I let myself even go, all right, well, maybe that's just how the world is. Look at reality and just shake hands with it and just go, well, that's, some changes you got to be ready for change, and but some changes we don't need to stand for, and allow ourselves to go, that's how it is. And I was looking around and felt myself placating and compromising, and think that's as good as it gets, and this is as good as life gets, and this is as good as people get, and so shake hands with that. And I didn't like that feeling. Let's forget reality for a minute, and let's go to poems and prayers, which are pursuits of the divine in us, which are poetry, which are songs, like, with the beauty in between the lines, moments that we love, that we want to capsulize and go, oh, I want to remember that, and I want to expand that in my own life. And so I said, well, let's look to those dreams and those ideals and say, let's grab a hold of those and maintain the beginner's mind that we have as the child in all of us, and bring those down to earth and keep believing in those. So don't fall prey to going, well, that's just how it is. And reality is as good as it'll get. And people screw each other over. And there's no reason to trust anybody. Shoot, I don't even need to trust myself, man. Or there's no rules of engagement. There's no expectations you and I should have about how we deal with each other. Why would you get away with what you can? And I see a lot of people doing that, which is what scares me today a lot. And my main fear is that I see a lot of the youth not thinking that that's okay. And that's kind of the scariest part for me. So anyway, I put these poems and prayers in a book and wanted to share them because hopefully people can read it and remember their own ideals and pursuits and not give up on those in a world that tells you belief is a fool's errand, man. What are you doing? No, it's not. And don't quit believing it.
Talk about let's talk about the scale of impact. So you have a broader reach than most people have or will have, but that doesn't mean that every person can't make an impact with a person one at a time, or every interaction at a time. And someone asked me the other day, how do you help bring people together, or how do you help find the common ground? And for Walmart Associates, we get to do that every day. You're just here in the United States. We're in all 50 states. We serve people all over the country. We employ people all over the country, and I get to meet people all the time that have had a positive experience, and it might have even changed their trajectory in life just because they walked in, and somebody said to them, "How are you today? Anything I can help you with?" And just that an additional question. So I think what you're describing, you don't have to do what you do or what I do to make an impact, but you have to make the choice sometimes that we would describe as the hard right.
And the choice, because none of us like to be told what to do. And we're not going to mandate our way out of this into a better tomorrow. We need that legislature and stuff and rules and laws to help us kind of give bumpers about which way to go. But we're only going to do it when we make the choice. And I think the choice, because before I can be that to you, I got to be that to the man in the mirror. And more of us start there and ask ourselves, I'm going to go one more step to salvage my own character. I'm going to go one more step to salvage my marriage. I'm going to go one more step to sell in my job, to be better at my job. I'm going to stay on that extra 30 minutes. Or if enough of us go one more step with we're looking in the mirror, I think that's how we make the collective change. But have to do that. We each have to have that Socratic dialogue with ourselves first before I call it, I need a monologue. We need a monologue before we can have a dialogue. So first the conversation with ourselves, and then get that monologue, understand what we expect of ourselves, and believe and understand the fact that it is true what's best for us can be what's best for the other. What's best for the most amount of people is also what's best for us. And I think we don't like to connect those. We see those as contradictions sometimes. But there is choices we can make, each one of us, and as companies and as individuals, that is what's best for the most amount of people is also best for us. And what's best for us can also be what's best amount.
Exactly. The stories to go back to, I think the last time you may have been in Bentonville was around the time We Are Marshall was coming to life. And I remember you telling the story about why you chose that script and the story that needed to be told. And I want to talk about another one of your films in just a moment. But if you go back to that, was that an important moment in your career? The way you described it is it immediately heard the story and you wanted to do the movie, which is only the second time, if I remember right. The first was you needed a job, and the second time that one got it. What was it about that, and what impact it had? And the reason I bring it up, there's a scene in the movie where you're talking to a group of players at a cemetery that was very, very moving. And earlier you mentioned timing and delivery. the way you did that was masterful, but you were in the moment. Like, I'd love to just hear the story about what it was about Marshall University, the tragedy, and how that story came together.
So, one, it was a really good story, even if it wasn't based on truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out it's based on truth.
Mm-hmm.
As an actor, as a storyteller, that gives me a little more reverence, kind of settle down in the saddle. There's a little more fun responsibility to it, reason, purpose to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to Huntington, West Virginia to tell that story, and everyone in Huntington was somehow connected, either by blood or friendship, to someone on that crash in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
And that town was wary of Hollywood coming to town to tell their personal story. And I mean, you get people eyeing us from around the corner, they wouldn't engage. And our director, McGee, did a brilliant thing. He put out in the paper, anyone in this town is welcome to set, anytime. Anyone in town wants a script, we'll hand you a script. And slowly, a few of the braver ones started coming out of the shadows and coming up on set and we, hey, welcome, give them the script. So suddenly that script started circulating the town. They started saying, like, oh, they're not coming here to make fun of us or make it sound like this. They're coming here to do this. This really tells our story well. So we gained the trust of the community. We go tell that story. You know, there's great cathartic stories since then of how it helped in some ways heal a lot of people in that town. Sometimes, you know, not always, a film, a story well told can help people heal. And that was a real healing story. It was hard to tell and it was really sensitive, but it was one that of a rebirth
Mm-hmm.
of a community, not only a school, but of a community. And it happened after that plane crash. It happened during that filming. It happened after that film came out. It continues to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got purpose behind telling that story.
It does, and it was inspiring for me, and I didn't know the story until I saw it and learned about it. So you have another movie, a new movie, that is, although quite different story, also is based in truth and real heroism at a time people need. Talk about that one.
It's called The Lost Bus.
Yep.
And it is about it's called the Camp Fire. There's a major fire that went through Paradise, California in 2018. 85 people moved on, died from the fire. And we chose to tell the story. While there are many heroic acts and many people who did some very heroic things that day, we chose to tell a story about this bus driver, Kevin McCay. He drops the kids off. And there's a fire across the canyon, but those happen all the time, no big deal. Well, later through the day, this fire got really bad. The winds took the fire, jumped the canyon. All of a sudden, there's a mandatory evacuation of Paradise, California. And this bus driver is hauling Bud home to get his mom and his son to evacuate him because they can't drive. And as soon as he makes that decision to do that, he gets a call through dispatch on the bus CB. I've got 23 stranded kids on the east side of town. Do we have an empty bus on the east side of town? Anybody over there? Well, this guy, Kevin McCay, was that guy. He had an empty bus. He was on the east side of town. He did not want to answer that. And you can understand why.
Mm-hmm.
He waited. He wanted someone who waited.
Somebody
he wanted someone else to pick it up. No one else picked it up. And then he did. And he goes, bus 963, I got him. And instead of going to get his mom and his son, he took a right to go get those kids. There with those kids was a teacher, Mary Ludwig, who got on the bus with him and those 23 kids. And this is the story of that next 6 hours of what happens to them. Again, a story worth telling that I'd want to see on the screen, even if it wasn't true. But then because it's based in truth, I've got a little more resonance and reverence for the reasons of doing it. And wonderful director, Paul Greengrass directed it, did Captain Phillips, United 93, some wonderful movies. And America Ferrera plays the teacher. And it's a story well told, and I think worth seeing. And it opens, it's streaming on Apple TV Plus starting October 3rd.
And for us, it affected Walmart because our parking lot, one of our stores, Chico, became a place to rally and to put people together and to, in natural disasters or things that happen, our parking lots can become a place of hope.
Yep.
And we're proud of that. And we're going to be there for our communities, whether it's getting your phone charged, getting a case of water, getting a meal, getting a shower. Those are the times where we have to rise up and we have to pull people together to make a real impact.
Will you tell me more about that? And where, has that always been part of the understanding of that's what we at Walmart will do? because we have a campus. We have a store that can turn into a campus, can turn into a place of refuge for people near there whenever there's a natural disaster.
No, our team, we're local in about 5,000 communities around the United States is the best way to describe it. And the 75% of our managers started as hourly associates somewhere in the company. I did that. I started at a garden center across town part-time. And you grow up being part of this family and this group of associates and communities. And when people need us, we need to be there for them. They've been there for us as customers and supported our business for years and years and years. And the first time that it really became apparent we had a really large role to play was 20 years ago. It was Hurricane Katrina. I was in Florida the week before getting ready for this little storm that was going to clip the southern part or maybe the east coast of Florida. We'd moved some supplies down into central Florida. We were ready. Well, then it didn't hit Florida. It went a bit south. It hits the Gulf. And so we started reshuffling, thinking about, what would we do to be ready? So we had to move things around. And then we woke up on that Sunday morning, and this is a Category 5 hurricane, one of the biggest we'd ever seen, that's barreling straight for Louisiana. And that Sunday morning, we have an emergency operations center that helps coordinate all the activities, the responses, and I don't remember the words exactly, but at a certain point Lee said to all of us, you go do what you have to do, and we'll figure out later how we manage it.
Right.
And then the storm hits, and we all know that story, how tragic it was. And then a few days later, you see a convoy of Walmart trucks lined up ready to get into the city. And in our emergency operations center, which is now in the basement of the building across the street, there's a painting and a photo of those trucks. And it's a reminder of the impact that we can make for people, real people, individuals, families, that they're fighting for their survival, and we've got to be there for them. And the same things happens year after year. A year ago, this week actually, I think it was a year ago today, I'm out in Appalachia after Hurricane Helene, and people were missing. Mountain roads that had washed out, people that we couldn't get things to or even knew where they were. So we started turning our parking lots again into rally points, places where there is shower, there is food, there's some support, people you can talk to. We try to get open when it's safe, but the parking lots become a place of hope. And just like in Hurricane Katrina, we put together a convoy of trucks out of one of our DCs in South Carolina, and we moved them into those areas. It was Asheville and other communities that needed us, and it's a rewarding and a personal way to get to see our teams respond the way they do. And when people see the trucks going down the highway that say Walmart and they know help's on the way, it just creates the hope that people need at times to get through it. And I, in the role I'm in, you might assume that we direct and we decide and we tell people to. We don't. They just do it. They just step up and do it. And I've been to disasters where, I think we get there quick. And when I get there, there's one Hurricane Michael a few years ago in the Panhandle, Florida. And when I went into the community and got to the hotel, our team, who was serving meals, that had driven at that point probably 400 miles, were already there. They're already on the ground. They're working. So communities like that, or Appalachia, wherever it is in the country, that we've been there a long time. They've taken care of us for a long time. We've had people work in those buildings for 35, 40 years. So when they need us, we need to be there. And we need to help them rebuild, and that's what's happened in those communities. We're all back open. We're there running. So it's part of who we are. I'm sure we're a business and we're a commercial enterprise, but it's the human impact that matters. Our founder told us that it's our job to help people save money so they can live better.
Right.
And live better is a really important part of that promise statement.
And that's quantity and quality.
That's right.
And success with a profit.
That's right.
That can. You're helping people stabilize when there's a crisis. It's an interesting thing about us humans, isn't it? That when crises come, why do we see the best in ourselves? Mm-hmm. In that Paradise Fire and Lost Bus, we were one of the stories. There was hundreds of stories. Neighbors helping neighbors and things that don't usually happen during the regular sunny day. And we talked about it earlier, but the sense of being relied on and depended on does a great thing for the one that's helping out own ownership and dignity. Mm-hmm. And I think we undersell that with ourselves a little bit sometimes as people. Yeah,
a lot of people, when communities are needed, some people run from it, some people run to it. Our people run to it. Yeah. And I was leaving one of these call it a disaster. It was after a big storm had hit. And there was someone traveling with me who said, you know what, if you have a big problem in the world, you know what you need about 10 Walmart associates and a Walmart truck driver.
There you go.
And we can work it out.
There you go.
And I'll never forget the day that I heard that. And I repeat it, and I always get yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. They do step up. Means a lot. Let's shift gears just a bit.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur, a lot of risk taking involved, and we want to meet entrepreneurs who are creating new ideas, new services, new product. Our founder was an entrepreneur. And we try to empower entrepreneurs to come see us and talk about what might be possible. So for the entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about starting a business, making a product, it's hard.
Yeah.
They go through a different kind of grind than what I grew up growing up being a part of a company. What advice would you give entrepreneurs like that?
Ask yourself, is what your product or your idea, is it solving a problem? Is it more than a want? Is it more than a convenience? Is it a need? Can it improve someone's life, people's life? If it's a need, look, we all can't be inventors. We all can't discover something brand new all the time. But if we can provide something that's needed that can qualify to help the quality of life, you will get the quantity because it'll be a need. So is the product, is the idea solving a problem? Is it more than just another fad, another convenience? Try to project down the line and go, in success, how would this product that I'm peddling here as an entrepreneur, how can that improve lives 10 years from now? Project further from that if you can. And then come on, and then deconstruct back from there about what immediate problem might you be solving. And that may be a product that helps someone get more of what they want in their life. It may be a product that gives somebody more time. You know, if AI is one part of what AI, if and how it works, is if it can allow us to spend more time, humans to spend more time doing what we're actually more qualified to do. You know, bigger ideas, being maybe able to make the son's baseball game or the daughter's dance game, whatever those, it can give us maybe more time to create more quality in our life. That would be a useful part of AI, one of many things. But does it solve a problem? Is it a need? Because if it is, you will, if you can supply that, the demand will be there. And in business, we're talking supply and demand.
That's right. It's starting with purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah. What's the purpose? We have a mutual friend, Roy Spence.
Yes.
Who I remember, I was listening to a podcast one day, and I think it was advice from his mother: figure out what you're good at and go be great at it.
Yeah. Instead of trying to be good at what you suck at.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because you'll never be great at these
Right.
things. And so if you find something with purpose and you find an idea and you're great at it, I love the line, just find a nice hobby that you love and call it work.
Yeah.
If that all aligns, then we'd like to hear from you, like to meet you, and don't give up. Matthew, thank you so much for the time in Bentonville. Thanks for being a part of all of this and meeting our team this morning. You've been an inspiration for a lot of people for a long time. I know you live a life of purpose. The book, Poems and Prayers, I would encourage you to read it. You can listen to it. Lots of ways to experience it, but it means a lot to us that you took time to come here and spend time with our team.
Thanks for having me, and enjoying the ministry so far. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.